What you just heard there was the sound design I created for this dragon animation. This was quite a fun project. It was based in Ableton, and I'm just going to break down some of the more interesting parts of this project. There was a lot of sound library recordings from BBC sound libraries, and then some recordings were just found online. I've recorded it through Audacity. So here I'm going to show you, just without any of the effects, how the lion and tiger recordings sound. You can hear that there's like a lot of noise from the recording equipment and also just general ambience, so I just wanted to clean that up with some of the plugins you see here. So it's quite a noisy recording. Where I started was using the reduced ambience multiband compressor. That's part of Ableton's stock plugin. And then after that, I just done quite a simple EQ cut. We're cutting off quite a lot of the low end frequencies that won't be used, around about 30 Hz. And then there was some harsh frequencies around about the 4K range, and I just ducked that down a little bit. The chorus is mostly just to kind of widen the sound, give it a bit of movement. And then the effects rack there, that's Sound Toys. And it's just one of their distortion units, mostly focusing on the low end to try and give some low end rumble. The RVox in the last bit in the chain here is a Waves plugin. It's pretty much just a compressor, but it's aimed at vocals, and it just worked really well to flatten the signal. Once I was happy with the effects chain and how it was sounding, I just started to layer some more samples from this recording. There wasn't much to work with, so I ended up recycling quite a lot of them. To create a bit of variety, I was time stretching some of the samples and pitching them down. At the end, when it all comes together, it's a good bass structure for this dragon's roar. At this point, it's just sounding like a lion, and there's not much character to the dragon itself. So in the video, the dragon seems to be a bit defensive, and when I was searching for what else to layer into here, I found that an elephant recording worked really well. So I'll play that now. So this is quite an old, noisy recording found from the BBC sound library. So in order to clean that up, there's been quite a lot of EQ done to it, mostly keeping that low mid-range. The effects rack is it's just, once again, it's a Sound Toys distortion unit, and that is just focusing on the low end. The spectral blur here, that's an additional Ableton plugin, and it's more of like a filtered reverb, and that's just to kind of wash out the whole sound, let it blend in with the others. Little Altar Boy is just a pitch down, though there is also some transposition done on the Ableton clip. So I quite liked how these elephant sounds turned out, especially with how messy the recording was to start with. These effects have managed to clean it up quite a bit, and now it's quite a usable clip. I would say that the pitch and the timbre of these swelling whines from the elephant, it gives the creature's roar a sense of urgency, and maybe it's feeling a wee bit intimidated. It's interesting that we've used quite an opposite animal here, and in doing this we've managed to give this fictional creature a sense of character, whilst also still keeping it grounded in reality. So this next one, the death whistle, it was a wee bit of a wild card, but I ended up quite enjoying how it sounded when it was all put together. The death whistle is it's a resonator. I think it's from Mexico, and as far as I know, it was a ritual instrument, but it was also used as like an intimidation towards like animals or different armies. So the death whistle is mostly just white noise, but it has a kind of a vocal scream to it. Ended up filtering out using some EQs, a wee bit of phase on it, and a lot of distortion. It's ended up kind of almost functioning as the vocal cords of the dragon. You can almost imagine how much wind is pushing out to make that roar sound. So it's quite a discreet track that's in this. It's not really heard when it all comes together, but it's just an extra layer to further develop the character of the dragon. So here in the movement group, this is probably the bit I struggled with the most. I live near a main road, and currently my window's not working properly, so it just sounds like I'm outside. It's almost impossible to get a clean recording. For the character's movement, I just broke it down into a few groups. So we have like the wings, the tail, the feet, and then from that I just got into more finer details, like when it's sliding its tail across the ground, or if it slides its feet across the ground. The recordings are most of them have like the high end brought right down because of the noise. So I just tried to focus on what would convey the movement as best as possible, and that was mostly just some low end impacts for its feet, give it a sense of weight, and then with the kind of fabric rustling, that worked really well to convey some of the wing movements. And then I'm just following a very similar effects chain, though with these ones I'm cutting out a lot of the high end to try and get rid of the traffic noise. So I was just hitting my hand off the table for the footstep recording. I filtered out a lot of the high end and added a bass plugin called R-Bass just to give it a bit of low end. That worked really well, though after a bit of distortion, that functioned really well to give a sense of weight to the dragon's footsteps. So that's the breakdown of some of the tracks there. I was quite happy with the end result of this. I'll play it once more and try and have a wee listen to hear all these parts that I've covered. And thank you for watching.